Welcome to another episode of Girl Talk, our season finale. This is our season finale for this season. We will be returning though on September 2nd with brand new episodes, brand new topics, but we thought we would go out with a bang. And this episode is going to be really informative. We've seen this a lot in the media over the last couple of weeks. This is called the birthing episode. So we're going to be talking all things childbirth, maternity related. And we have an awesome guest here with us tonight. She is a qualified midwife. She's somebody that we know and love dearly.
She was with me through my birthday. Ezra.
She's been up front and centre.
She's been there with me, like, see me in a way that most people never have.
So we have with us tonight in the studio, this is Laumi. Welcome to Girl Talk.
Thank you.
So we've seen in the media, there was a documentary, I think, featured a week or two ago, where Rochelle Humes was shining the light on why there's a higher rate of mortality in ethnic women in regards to childbirth. So we want to break that open tonight. We're going to be talking all things pregnancy, birth, everything surrounding that. So should we just jump straight in?
Let me just say, first of all, before you log off and you're like, oh, this isn't for me, there are things that you can learn from this, like learning to ask questions and not just accepting wherever you are in life, learn to ask the relevant questions. So don't tune out, even if this doesn't concern you, and this is, you may be a man and you're thinking, this isn't for me. Just stay here because you will learn something. We guarantee you will learn something.
Well, we were just having a talk before the show started, and I've had 3 children, and I learned a lot of things for the first time about my body. So there we go. And I think the reality is that with Girl Talk, it's all about creating that sisterhood, starting those conversations, being able to, and equipping you with the information you need to be able to pass that on to somebody else. And the reality is that what you learn today could actually save someone's life, could impact someone's life, whether that be your sister, your niece, your mum, if you're a man, your sister, your friend. So let's get into it. So first of all, let's start by telling us a little bit about you, your qualifications, how long you've been doing this, what your job is.
So I'm Laumi. I'm a qualified midwife, and I've been a qualified midwife for going up to about 26, 27 years now.
Wow. That's a lot of babies.
Lots of babies.
Yeah.
Some of them, they're teenagers now. I see them around. It's amazing.
Wow. I remember the days when you were studying.
I know. Actually, Pastor Erica, you bought me my first fob watch. I don't know if you can remember. Yeah, the one that we put on our chest there. You got me my first one. That was very good.
Yeah. They don't know what that is.
Don't know what that is.
So for those of you that don't know, what exactly is the role of a midwife? What is it that you do? Is it just that you're there in the delivery room? Obviously, for those that's never had a baby, they wouldn't really know the process of, obviously, when you go to your GP and say, I'm pregnant, that's usually the part where the midwife would start.
After that, obviously you're trying for a baby and you're doing all the necessary things. We coming after you've gotten pregnant to look after you throughout your pregnancy, your labor, and afterwards for about 10-15 days, and then the health visitor takes over. So that brings us nicely to the bits we're going to talk about today. So first of all, as children of God, anything we do, foundation is prayer, the word, find the scripture, stand on the scripture, yourself and your husband. God's promises will never fail you. Tell God what you want. The Bible says, write the vision down, make it plain, so the people that see it can run with it. stand in agreement and just believe God for whatever you want concerning pregnancy. Then obviously your body needs to be healthy to receive the seed, to receive egg. So we're talking good diet, iron-rich diet. So you're talking your spinach, your kale, your pomegranates, foods that are rich in antioxidants. So your raspberries, your blueberries, your salmon, your sardines. Try and stay away from tuna fish in a tin, just because of mercury.
I've heard about mercury.
So you do that, and obviously exercise as well. So make sure you stay away from strenuous exercises, and also
stay away from it.
Stay away from it.
Not do more.
No, not do more.
No lifting weights.
And I tell you why. No, I mean you can lift weights, but light weights, and also we say try and keep your stress levels down.
Okay.
Simply because it can affect the blood flow to your uterus, and that can affect the lining of your uterus, whereby the implantation is difficult. For
So
the
is that why
stress,
some women...
stress causes you to not be able to conceive well?
Yes.
So the more you
High
stress
level.
about getting pregnant,
Absolutely, because it affects the lining of your uterus. Because before the egg is implanted, the lining goes thicker to receive the egg. So if the lining is thin and it's not thick enough, then you wouldn't implant the egg.
That's why
properly.
people always say, "Oh, I got pregnant when we went on holiday."
Yes, because you're
Because
nice
you're
and relaxed,
relaxed.
and all the hormones are in
So
place.
if you're
and
trying for a
working.
baby, now the borders are opening up. Go on holiday.
Relax.
Why not? Okay, so we've talked about exercise. Also, you need to be looking at vitamins.
Yeah,
So
I
you're
took a
taking
lot of vitamins.
Yeah, so you're
before.
taking folic acid.
Yeah.
You're taking your multivitamins,
Yeah.
and there's a really popular one on the market called Pregnant Care.
That's what I
Yes.
took.
Yeah, that people can take, and it's not just for the women, for the man as well.
Oh.
Yeah, they do
Yes.
have the men's one.
It's
as well.
good for the
Well,
man to
pregnant
take
care
it
for men.
It's like the men's
Men's
version.
version.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
participate, don't they?
because it's good.
Why?
Why? It's good for the men to be not to be deficient in some of these things, so it helps with the sperm quality as well.
Ah, there you
So,
go, guys.
your
You're good.
vitamin
Glad you
C.
stayed.
Your vitamin C, your vitamin E, your zinc, selenium for the men is good.
Okay.
So would you recommend that you start taking these vitamins? Say, for example, I'm single, but I know that one day I want to get pregnant. Would you recommend that I start taking these vitamins now?
Not
Or-
all of them. Normally,
Healthy baby. First day, here you go, babe.
the normal vitamins fine, but not your folic acid, obviously.
Okay, so just when you're trying for a
yeah,
baby.
just when you're trying for a
Okay,
baby.
yeah.
Normal vitamins is
Okay.
fine, and obviously diet should be good. So you're eating good diet, not too fattening. As you know, that will affect everything. And also, if you're on any medication, it's good to speak to your GP. Because you may need to reduce the medication, you may need to up it, you may need to stop taking it completely, and it's good to ask about the risks and benefits. If you're, say, for instance, you've got high blood pressure, you've got diabetes, you're on medication, they need to review the medication before you start taking, before you start trying to get pregnant.
I think while we're still on the conception stage, should we talk a little bit about ovulation? Because I think that this
That
is
was my
something.
next point.
Oh, you were, yeah. I think this is like to me anyway, it's like this goes over your head a little bit because there's like this whole like science to obviously
So I'll
having a baby.
try and explain it, make it simple. So basically, ovulation is what happens for your egg to be released, for it to be fertilized by sperm, for you to get pregnant. So you got your uterus, and it's like we say it's
Can we
like
use
a
this?
fist.
Can we use the...
Yeah, we can use this.
Okay,
So say this is your uterus, yeah. So it's like your fist before pregnancy, and this right here is your cervix here. Okay, so this is a non-pregnant uterus. So on here you have two tubes going this way. Those are your fallopian tubes, and on the bottom you have like almond-shaped stuff, which is your ovaries. That's where your egg is being made, produced, released. Okay, so ovulation, and it's good to know your cycle as well, because then that will help you get pregnant quicker. So you need to find out if you need to try and find out if your 28-day cycle or 32-day cycle. So we say your most fertile days are probably the 14th, the 12th to the 14th day before your next period.
There's actually apps that do it all for you.
Yes.
So if you like literally track it, then the app, you'll put it in and it will actually tell you, like it will actually show you,
Yeah.
this is your most fertile now.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that's when you need to get busy.
Yeah.
So one of the I spoke to a lady, and she said her ovulation window was actually really small. So obviously, I think with the apps, they're quite generic in terms of, obviously it's a general
No,
one.
you input
Yeah,
your
but
information.
for a lot of people, it's very general. And one particular lady that I spoke to, her ovulation window was actually hours. So she
Wow.
had a really tiny window in terms of when she ovulated. So
Okay.
obviously, I think it's important that every woman knows that
Yes.
each person's body
It's
is
different.
completely
Absolutely.
different.
Absolutely.
And obviously, the apps are great, but they're quite generic.
Yes.
So
And did she get pregnant?
she did get pregnant.
Oh, fantastic.
But what she said is that obviously you need to actually be testing.
Yes.
So you urinate on the stick, and that's where it'll give you a more accurate window as
Yes.
to, because it's actually measuring
Yes.
the hormones in your body
Yes.
rather than just a generic app
And so
measuring
you
your days.
use both together.
Yes.
So that's what I did with
Okay.
Ezra. I use the app so that obviously you're not just testing every day.
Yeah.
It kind of then shortens that window, and then you buy the, I'm trying to remember now,
Six.
you buy this ovulation
Well, there are
stick.
actually ovulation sticks that syncs the two. So it's an app
Yes.
where you actually test
Test,
this
and
on
then
the
you
stick,
compare it
and the
with-
stick sends the information to the app.
Oh wow.
So it's very high tech
now.
And it's not just that.
Yeah.
Mentioning that is actually being sexually active within that time, because if you don't have enough sperm to fertilize the egg, then you're not going to get
But
pregnant.
is there too much? Because I know that's a thing, that you could become too active, because they say that doesn't that diminish the quality of the sperm, or is that not a
I
thing?
don't think so. I
Okay.
think the more you are, the better your chances.
But if you want a boy or a girl, that also depends, because I researched that, because I was like, I'm not having another girl. And the closer that you are to the beginning of your ovulation, the
Yes,
higher
yeah.
the chances of you having a boy versus towards the end, because the female sperm is stronger than the male sperm. So you're giving the sperm more chance if you ovulate, if you literally conceive, like as
She's
you.
got it.
Yeah, that's why I got Ezra.
Well, as much as a lot of people say that's a myth, it actually works for a lot
Yeah,
of
it
people. So people could do that if they
Do your
want to. If they want to. Also, so does that answer your question
Yes,
on
yes,
ovulation?
yes.
Okay, so also you want to find out about past medical history on both your sides. Say, for instance, if a woman's had maybe an STD before and wasn't treated properly, that could affect the chances of getting pregnant. If there's any family history of maybe high blood pressure, diabetes, you want to be tested for that as well. Also with weight, we advise that you lose weight, because if you're obese, or if you're heavy, you could develop something called polycystic ovaries, which could then affect you getting pregnant as well. And then obviously read plenty, find out information, do your research, join hands with your husband, and do whatever it is you need to do to achieve that goal.
So in school, you obviously have sex education, which is great, but they actually never talk to you about labour, and they never talk to you about actually pregnancy and actually your body in terms of pregnancy. So for me, I actually, till this day, there's a lot of things that I actually don't understand, a lot of terminology that I don't understand. So I guess probably what would be really helpful, I think, for everybody is actually a little education into all these terms, what's actually happening
Okay. So
when we get pregnant, like what goes where, what's happening. Uterus, womb. I just found out they're the same thing today.
okay, so like I said before, so once the egg is released, it then travels through the fallopian tube, where it will meet the sperm, hopefully, and fertilize, and then goes all the way down into the uterus, which is the womb, and gets embedded in the uterus. Then pregnancy starts. You do a test, positive, and growth starts. Obviously, there are changes in your body. You get the body size increases, Some women get discoloration on their skin, which is normal. Some
Swelling.
Swelling, and then you get
What causes the swelling?
excess fluid sometimes and hormones.
You can't do anything about it.
Not necessarily, no. And that's why once the pregnancy is, once you have the baby, everything goes back to normal. And then you sometimes have excess vaginal secretion, which is absolutely normal.
What does that mean?
So you get more discharge.
Oh, okay.
So you get more discharge, and that's normal. And you shouldn't be having any periods once you're pregnant. If you do have bleeding, then you must let your midwife or whoever's looking after you know, because that could be an indication of something happening inside. And obviously your belly is growing. Then you need to decide, where do I want to have my baby? Do I want a home birth? Do I want to have my baby in the midwifery-led unit? Do I want to have my baby in the hospital? Obviously, these are things you
Can we just stop for a moment there? For a lot of people, they probably don't know that that's even an option.
Okay.
That you can actually have your baby at home. Is there requirements needed for somebody to be deemed safe to have their baby at home? Or, obviously, when I was having Ashley, we looked at a midwife-run facility. Again, I was disqualified for that because I think my iron levels were too low. So there are qualifications to be able to have your baby at different facilities. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, so there are. So for the home birth and for the midwifery-led unit, as the name implies, it's just manned by midwives. There's no doctors. So everything has to be absolutely normal. So your iron has to be a certain level. And that's why we check your iron once or twice during the pregnancy for everybody, because it's not just going to have your baby in the midwifery-led unit. Also, if you go to the hospital, your iron needs to be good, so that if you run into complications, then you've got something to fall back on.
I didn't realise that iron was that important.
Very important.
Because I was so deficient.
Right.
I was really deficient. I would have blackouts.
Did they offer you some iron tablets?
I did. I had to take iron tablets.
Right.
They said I was so immune. That even that whites of my eyes were so colourless.
Wow.
But I would have blackouts all the time in my pregnancy.
Yes.
But I didn't realise it was a danger.
It is, because if you think life is in the blood, right? That's where the baby starts from, blood. When people have miscarriage, what happens? You bleed out.
So
and also the baby will get whatever it needs from you. So you're the one that suffers it. If your iron is low, the baby will feed off you and get the iron it needs. You have to replenish yourself. So the iron is very important. And also, if you go on to then have a bleed, a major bleed later, the iron, if your iron was high, it would help you to a certain extent. Okay. So we'll make sure your iron levels are fine. Scans have to be okay. Baby okay. No infections. So different pregnancy complications, like maybe the baby being breech. If your baby was breech, they would refuse you to have your baby in the midwifery-led unit or at home. You need to be where the doctors are.
I think it's so important as well, like, to try and get a midwife that you really like and that you really can trust. Because I know for me, when I was having Maya, my midwife was amazing. And I mean, I know you're going to talk about birth plans, but I know that by having a birth plan in place as well, and a midwife that was familiar with that, it really, really helped to give me the birthing experience that I wanted versus what somebody else thought was best for me.
Yeah, can I ask, did you get to meet the midwife before the labour?
So the midwife that I was supposed to have, she actually ended up being sick. So I did meet my midwife initially, but then she actually couldn't make it.
Right.
But because I had my birth plan in place, when I got there, the midwife had already familiarised herself with my birth plan.
Yes.
So and then I think because I was in labour for 12 hours, that shift changed and the midwife had to change, but because again of the birth plan, it was very seamless, and then that person was able to come in and really familiarize myself. And there was one point where the doctors wanted to intervene, and my midwife really fought for me, because she knew what I wanted.
Yes.
And I actually don't even remember her name, but she was amazing, and she really did give me the birthing experience I wanted.
So that's really good. Sometimes, I mean, one of the benefits of having a home birth and having a baby on a midwifery-led unit is you get to meet the team beforehand. If you were to go into hospital, I mean, there's lots of midwives in the hospital. You just pray for somebody that's good and kind-hearted and compassionate to look after you.
Some of them are
So
cold.
well, in some instances, say for instance, you having your baby on the midwifery-led unit, so you will get to meet the team. And like Sarah said, it's really important that you do a birth plan, because you're arming yourself with information. You are making choices out of the knowledge that you have, and once you communicate that, hopefully this should help you arrive at your dream or what you want to happen. So it's really important that that birth plan is communicated, and there's lots of online platforms that you can print out or download a birth plan from. So basically, what's a birth plan? The birth plan, on the birth plan, you want to talk about who you want to be your birth partner in labour. You want to talk about your choices or your options for pain relief, what you want for pain relief, how you want your labour to go, if you want to be upright, which we advise, because being upright encourages descent, which makes you progress better.
See, that was the opposite for me, though.
Really?
So all I wanted to do was sit, and they kept on saying to me, no, gravity, whatever. So I'd done everything else, and with every single one of my kids, I've actually given birth to them, you know, in that traditional, what you see in the movies.
Which is good. What I mean is during the labour, so you were up and about, when you were up and mobile.
Yeah, but all I wanted to do was go on the bed.
Really?
Yeah.
Probably maybe you were tired. But even being on the bed, as long as you're not lying flat, we'll call it semi-recumbent, sitting semi-recumbent is fine.
Yeah.
So you're still sitting up.
Okay.
There's still gravity, so that's fine.
I did what I was told.
So there's still gravity, and that's fine. And it's so important that you communicate your birth plan to your midwife, so she will help you bring about the process. And also, when she's handing over your care, like you said, to the next person, if you have a change of shift, she can then say, this is Sarah, this is what she wants, this is what she wants. And with the birth plan, it's really important that you get dads involved to write it with us, because I'm sure there were probably times where you couldn't talk.
So like, after 10 hours, so I was really adamant that I didn't want any pain relief. And after 10 hours, I was like, okay, forget the birth plan. I just want pain relief. But I made Jason promise me that do not let me deviate from this. This is what I actually want while I'm in my sane mind. This is actually what I want. And he was so amazing. He said to me, he reminded me of what I'd asked him. And he said, no, Sarah, you made me promise. And I'm so glad that he did stick to that, because I was just saying that in the moment because I was over it. But afterwards, I was so glad that he stuck with that. But if I hadn't communicated that to him, then he wouldn't have been any wiser, and he would have just kind of been led by whatever was happening.
Yes, and that's really good. And I always advise my clients to do the research together, write the birth plan together. And a way to keep it fresh now in both your memories is probably one reading it out and the other one typing. Husbands to type, because they remember better that way when they type it out for you. And it's always good.
So these birth plans are available online. You just Google
online. So there are a few websites. There's Tommys.org. There's the NHS.uk website.
And they're free.
They're free. You download them. You fill them out, and it's always a good thing as well to go and discuss it. Go through it with your midwife while you're still pregnant, just in case you need to make any changes and you don't understand a few things.
So so for the naive first time mother, how on earth do you know what is the right thing to do for you? Because gosh, no one could have described what labour was like to me.
No one prepares you for
the pain is like unreal.
I liked it.
And obviously everybody is such an individual, and I think that's the one thing that everyone needs to understand. you know, a lot of people like to throw around horror stories, but everybody's story and every birth, even with
different
with
the
different
same
children,
mum,
the same
absolutely.
mum,
Yeah,
different children,
absolutely.
is so individual. How do you know what is going to be the right thing for you to do? I mean, when I went into hospital with my labour was very quick with Ashley. It was literally like, I mean, I asked the question, how do you know you're in labour? Trust me, you know.
You know. And that's what we
When
say.
that pain hits you, you know.
My thing is, if you can still talk,
Yeah.
then you're not in labour.
And
Really?
necessarily.
Like hold a whole sentence.
No,
It
I
depends.
can't remember which one of you I was in labour with, and the midwife said to me, "Oh, let us know when you're having another contraction." So I'm chatting away and I'm laughing,
Yeah.
and I said, "I'm having a contraction." She was like, "No, you're not."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yes, I am." So we're having this argument. She said, "You're not having one." I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "If you were, it would have wiped that smile off your
Yeah.
face." So that was her thing. Even though I actually was
Yeah.
having a contraction, she said
I could
I
have
should.
talked during the late stages of labour.
No, see, I
could've-
didn't have a build up. Mine was full on from the very
For a
beginning.
start.
So my
That's
contractions,
why I went from
my
0 to.
contractions were 2.5 minutes from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
So there was no like, oh, okay, let's eat
That
5
was
this.
minutes.
that was my first
No, it was
pregnancy.
full on from. It woke me up out of my sleep, and that
Right.
was it. It was go.
And everyone's different. So
Yeah.
with contractions, it can start with what we call a latent phase, which is backache, period type pain, feeling pain, you know, lower abdo, and you know, a bit. You can
Bringing
still
back horrible
breathe through
memories.
them, and then you know you get the fast and the furious one, which is the one you
I know,
have.
that's severe.
Or you get the one where we say you're in active labour. So every 5 minutes, they last in 60
Yeah.
seconds. They're giving you a good break in between. They're
Right.
painful. Your stomach goes hard. It then
Yeah.
relaxes. So everyone's different.
Yeah.
So for you to know if you're in labour, so many literature out there.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why we say do a birth plan, because on
Yeah.
the birth plan it will it will open up avenues for you to research and find out information about what you want to happen.
I know this sounds crazy, but is there a way to manage the pain in terms of without having pain relief? Because I never got to have the option of having pain relief. It
Because
was
it was
literally I was fully dilated by the time I got to the hospital, so there was no option. It was literally just push.
Yeah.
So, but is there obviously a way to manage? Because in that moment it feels unimaginable. Like it feels like you can't control it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, other than I guess probably warm water, because I had it when I was in active labour. I had
Yes.
a warm shower. That seemed to ease
And calm you
and
down.
calm the pain. But is there any ways that if I said, okay, I don't want to have gas and air or an epidural or anything like that, what are some of the other alternatives for pain relief?
So some of the alternatives you said, which will be the shower. If you're going on a midwifery-led unit, you can use a pool for your labour. And what I always
Do
say
you
to
have
my
to request
clients,
that in advance?
no, most
Okay, so it's available.
yes,
Okay.
generally all the rooms should
Okay.
I
have
didn't know
pools
that.
in them.
Dirty.
And some people like that.
I know, I hated
Sometimes
it. I
they're right, even
literally hated
husbands
it.
jump
I was
in.
literally
Well, even
in
to
there for
just
like
sit
5
in there.
seconds and I was like, get me out of here. I'm not having my baby in here. And then the midwife got to try to touch my back. I was like, oh, this is too much. I wasn't a fan, personally, of the water.
But it's everyone's preference.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like for me, that actually freaked me out. Like the thought of just all these bits coming out
Really?
and
Yeah.
oh
And so for some women, they love it.
yeah, it's just a lot.
Yeah.
Like there's a
Yeah.
lot going on.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah,
And like
go
I said,
on.
sometimes husbands jump in as well.
Oh wow.
So
Dominic shaking his head in the studio.
Jason wasn't volunteering, but
Dom's gonna be in there with your next one, girl.
yeah.
Get his swimming trunks ready.
So people's pain threshold and tolerance of pain different. So what I always say to my clients is every contraction will pass. It will give you a break before the next one. And it's a lot of times it's in your mind, and I'm not saying the pain is in your mind, it's real pain,
Very.
but going through it and thinking, right, I'm progressing, there are things happening, I'm waiting for this baby to come,
Yeah.
I can do this. And if you have a good birthing
Mine
partner,
doesn't matter.
yes,
Yeah.
I
That
can do
is
this.
that was me. So my thing was so mental when I was having Maya. I knew I didn't want any pain relief, so I knew that I had to find an alternative. And for me, this is me personally. I didn't want to. I wanted to feel everything. I wanted to be fully present. So it was so mental for me, and that meant that when I was contracting, when I was going through a contraction, I couldn't talk. I couldn't look at anyone. I literally just rode it. And then when I was back out of it, then I could talk, and then I'd ride it again. And that was just basically how I managed it for the 12 hours.
And that's why I said different people have different pain thresholds. The way some people is by shouting, and that's why when you go on the labour ward, there's a lot of noise because they cope better shouting. Some women, some people cope with pain differently. And another thing that could help, Danny, with your question is adopting different positions in the labour and using the different tools that is available to you in the labour room, at home, or in the birthing centre.
Which are such as?
So the bouncy ball, you can bounce on that.
There's one where you hold your husband around his neck and you like kind of put all your weight down on him.
Or you squeeze his hand.
Yeah.
Does that evolve from the jigging the nails in the hand?
Well, you know, and you use the different tools that you've been given. You can have as many showers as you want to during the labour
I think
time.
I just had a recollection of doing that to you.
Yes, you did.
Oh no!
It's all right.
Just had a flashback of me holding on to Lami's neck and just pushing.
It's fine.
Oh wow,
And,
okay.
you know,
That
there's
just was
different
weird.
different things that you can do. You can rock from side to side. It's just being in control and taking and using what you have available to you there if you do not want pain relief.
But there are obviously benefits to not having the pain relief, isn't there? It's obviously you get to be very present and you get to feel exactly what's happening with your body.
Yes.
Because I think that was one of the things that I guess traumatized me a little bit. I was really afraid of tearing. That was something that I was very adamant that I did not want to happen. I passed that nugget on to everybody that's going to have a baby. So somebody told me only push on the contractions because obviously the urge is there to push.
Can we talk a little bit about the contractions? Because I don't think a lot of people understand. I know you've got this little thing here.
Yes.
So the urge, obviously, once you go into labour, is to
I can see it at that angle.
Is to push straight away, pretty much.
Well, not really. No, you have to be 10 centimeters.
Okay, well
So
maybe
let's
it's
talk about the dilation.
So, thank you for holding that.
That's
so
right.
when,
It's a little
say for
bit
instance,
faint.
you,
Can not sure if everyone can see it.
yeah,
You see that?
yeah, I think I can see it.
Yeah, we get the
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so labour starts. You go into hospital. You're contracting every 5 minutes. They last.
Let's talk about what it means when you're contracting. What's contracting?
So contraction. So contraction.
What's contracting?
So contraction is when your stomach or your womb or your stomach goes really tight and relaxes, painful. It's doing that every 5 minutes or every 3 minutes, and it's lasting about 60 seconds.
So it's just your stomach.
Yes.
It's muscles.
Muscles,
Your
yeah.
stomach
Your
muscles. They tighten.
Yes.
Yeah.
All by themselves. If you've ever tried one of those abs things that to flatten your stomach,
Times that by like a million.
where it electrocutes you, it's like that.
Times a million.
I remember saying that labour was the equivalent of the 9 months that you went without your period,
And then some.
multiplied. Yeah, it's like all those periods you thought you got away from, the period pains. It's all rolled into one and thrown back at you.
Okay, so there's a reason for the contraction, which is to dilate your cervix.
Yeah.
All right.
So your cervix is what?
Cervix is the neck of the womb. So say for instance, this is your womb right here. This is your cervix here. Okay. So
So where's your nunu?
Underneath.
Okay, go on.
Okay.
Why do you want to know that?
Because I'm wondering what's opening.
travel
What's
down.
That's inside of you. That's
The baby's
we're
not
looking at
sitting
inside
there,
of
is
you.
it?
So
I know that.
so
This is the
What's
neck.
opening?
This is the neck.
Okay, so this here is this.
Yeah.
Okay, all
This.
right.
So the neck of the womb.
I'm here. Go on, carry on.
So the neck of the womb
She's
is
had
here.
3,
which-
by the way.
Okay, so the neck of the womb is here, which brings me right to a question that a lot of people ask: is sex in pregnancy okay?
Good
Absolutely
question.
fine. There's nothing wrong with sex in pregnancy because
Up to where?
The
All
day
the way?
one.
The whole.
all the way, and
Some people
sometimes
use it
we
to
advise.
induce labour.
Absolutely,
Oh, really?
absolutely.
Okay.
So your say for instance
There's some of you
let me
naughty
use the
wives that have
pelvis.
been using that one to
Your husband's
shut
watching
him
me
down.
like,
Yeah, now he knows.
And there are some instances, though, I must say, that you're advised not to have sex.
Okay, what's that?
When it's, say, for instance, if your placenta is low, covering the neck of the womb, they would say wait till you've had all your scans and you've got the all clear, then you can resume sexual
So there's no
activity
danger
again.
to baby.
No, and I'm
Okay.
just going to demonstrate that. So this is our pelvis. If you can see my little pelvis, can everyone see?
So we all wish we had little ones.
Okay, so this just for demonstration purposes. So you're about there. Okay, so uterus.
Can I just
Pelvis.
ask, does the size of your pelvic make a
Bone.
difference? Your pelvic bone, does it make a difference? Because they always say people with bigger hips.
So your pelvic
they
is your
just-
hips, right?
Yes.
Yes. The
Okay.
So
formation of
is it do you have better? They always say women with bigger hips got childbearing hips.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes, with
Does it make it
experience, with
easier?
research, yes. That's why you find a lot of Somalian women, they have really big babies.
Oh,
And they can push them out.
Okay.
Easily.
They've got
because
hips.
they're
Yes.
what's the word?
It's
Genetically.
the hips. It's the pelvic.
Oh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
And some instances it doesn't work that way, but with research that people have done, they say yes, it could make a difference, and also with the size of the baby as well, could make a difference.
Okay.
So this is your uterus, this is your pelvis, so the cervix is right there. So when you have a contraction, what happens to your tummy muscles? It contracts and relaxes. So I'm going to put this down. When it relaxes, a part of the cervix pulls back. Okay, so it's like a xylophone, if you can imagine.
So this is this one, the first one.
Not yet, not
Okay.
yet. So there's pulling back. So the cervix, a non-labor cervix, is long, is thick, is what we call on the face, and is right at the back.
Okay.
So all the early part of the labor brings it all the way forward.
Oh, is that what hurts?
Yes. Well, the contraction hurts, and
Yeah.
then once you start having nice, good, strong contractions, then you start dilating your cervix. Okay, which is when you have a contraction, it pulls back, and we put two fingers in and have a feel and say, oh, you're 1 centimeter. I can just put one finger
Oh, really?
into the
Even
cervix.
pinky?
Okay.
Yeah, small.
And then they leave you for about an hour for your first time mum, second time mum, an hour or an hour or two for first time mum, second time mum an hour. Or if you feel as though things are happening, the general rule is to leave you for about 4 hours, then re-examine you again. They re-examine you, you say, oh, you're actually 2 centimeters, which is that one there. Okay,
So you've opened up 2
you've
centimeters.
opened up 2 centimeters.
Yeah.
So while you've opened up 2 centimeters, sometimes the cervix could still be thick, it could still be long. Okay, so and then we examine again. We say, oh, you're 3 centimeters. You're not in established labor yet. Okay,
Okay.
and then leave you for a bit.
And that,
You're still
when you're not
contracting.
in established labour, it means your cervix is still too long and too thick.
Too long, too thick, not opened up enough.
Yeah.
So
So that would, if you started pushing, you don't know any better, you start pushing at those stages, you can actually tear
do
that.
damage,
Yeah.
absolutely. And you shouldn't really push if you don't feel the urge
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
Really, that's what we say. So then we examine you. Oh, you're 4 centimeters. Now you're in established labor.
Okay.
Contractions are coming every 5 minutes, they're lasting, or every 3 minutes, they're lasting 60 seconds. So we leave you for a bit to carry on.
So someone like what we were talking about with Danny, she went from straight to every 2.5 minutes.
went from there
Do you
to there.
just skip all that process?
Yes, we skip. So it's whatever
It's
we
just
find when we put our fingers in.
They found that.
That's what you, which is good, and that's really good. And
But how does
Sounds like
what
a pig.
would take like 10 hours to get there, that your body's managed to do that in like just a
so if you think like what I said before, we got
21-year-old
different stages of labour.
Yeah.
Some people do it by the book. So you got your
Okay.
latent phase, which
Yeah.
is backache, period pain, where the cervix is changing, is
So
becoming
she
1
could have been in
centimetre.
labour from longer than
Yes,
before and
yes,
didn't realise.
yes.
Slept through it.
And we say generally,
Well, you may have thought you were just getting
No, I didn't get
Yeah.
anything.
I was in
Yeah,
labour.
yeah,
I was in
there was
labour
no
with
warning.
Ezra in church. Remember?
No, but I actually had no
Somewhere.
warning. There was nothing. It was
Yeah.
literally nothing.
Something
Bam.
must have been happening though.
probably, or
Yeah.
nothing. That's how amazing God
Wow.
is. And generally we say if you're young having a
21.
baby, yeah, you do it quicker when you're
Okay.
young. Okay, so cervix opens up.
So we're here now.
So we're say for instance we're maybe 8 centimeters. By this time your waters go. This is the membranes for the water.
Is that the baby?
Yes, that's the baby. Right. So
We're doing a birth on the show, guys.
Like that.
so we examine you again and we find, oh, you're 10 centimeters. Well done. Fantastic.
Okay.
Now, the
Ah,
baby's
head.
head's
Crowning.
still a little bit high,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Not as low yet. So we're going to wait a bit.
Mm.
Use your contractions. We get the baby down. If you feel any urges to push, then you let your midwife know. Okay, so baby comes down. You feel an urges to push. Very important that you listen to instructions. That will minimize the tear.
That's
you
what I
may
done. I
have.
listened.
Good.
I was like in the zone.
Good. So they say, and the general advice is you push with a contraction, and that will help. If you think of what's happening to the womb, it's contracting, so that will help you with the force to push the baby out. And then obviously when you're not contracting, there's nothing there helping
Yeah,
you. So
yeah.
you're pushing. The baby's coming. Then they deliver.
Oh, we've got to
the
put it through
baby's-
here.
Yeah, put it through here. The baby's coming.
Hold on, do you have to talk about the fact that the head doesn't come out in one push? That is, whew.
The shoulders for
Yeah.
me.
No, the head when you've got to
Yeah.
wait for that 60 seconds
Yeah,
is like
it's
forever.
awful. And it's stuck there.
Yeah.
I remember
And
the
it's very
big.
stingy.
Yeah,
Ay,
yeah,
ay,
it's
ay.
that stinging feeling, and I remember thinking, oh my god,
And that's
it's
the
like
bit you can't
you
push.
can't go backward and you can't go forward. You just
I think
get
I remember
stuck.
saying I was okay, like Ezra could just stay.
No, I remember wanting it to go back in so you could
So
just
you
get
back.
yeah, push it back.
Do it another day.
And then you're told push, and then they tell you to pant. Did they ever tell you
Yes,
to pant?
I heard that.
I've never been told to
Pant,
pant.
Yes,
pant.
yes.
I was with
Probably you had a
Danny.
controlled
Yeah.
push, so
I
which
was
is good.
focused.
Yeah, Danny
So-
was good. We
I was
were
in the zone.
just right there talking
That's
her
good.
through.
Yeah.
So the reason why they tell you to pant is so it eases out the head.
You
You
never
don't
told me
have
to
a-
pant.
Yours was a bit more
Remember?
manic, I think.
Yeah, yours was.
All right, go
Yes.
on. Carry on.
So they
Zoe.
tell you to pant,
Yeah,
and then
Sarah's was
panting
drama. Yeah, me and Danny chasing behind the ambulance.
I know. I was in the ambulance with you, wasn't I?
She's so drama.
So you're asked to pant, and that just because we don't want the head to come out all at
Shooting
once.
out, yeah.
You may have a tear, so pant, the head is out, right? And then
Relief.
relief, we're
When we
waiting
got
for the
delivered
body,
shoulders.
for the shoulders, so
Mm. That's
we
the next
wait
hard
again
bit.
for
That's
the
the-
next
that's the most
contraction, and that's
painful
the bit where the midwives help. They
Yeah.
help ease the baby out, and then the baby comes out. Nice to be delivered onto your tummy, for skin to skin.
Mm.
Helps relax the baby and relax you, and it also promotes breastfeeding if you want to breastfeed.
Mm.
So the baby's out, still attached to the cord. You get dad to cut the cord. They're always very proud of that.
Mm.
Baby's on you, on your tummy. Now you still have the placenta inside, okay? And this is where they will offer you the injection
Mm.
to help the placenta come out.
The injection made me vomit.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just
Sometimes
also,
you
how
can't
would you
have
know
that
that's
Safe.
yeah.
Good. Right. So
Oh, why have they got that now? Because I mean, obviously, in my days of having children, you just had to deliver it like
really,
you
they
delivered
didn't
the
give you an
baby.
injection?
No,
It's
no,
always
we-
been.
I can't remember being
And
given
a lot
one.
of
They would
people
be
don't
like-
remember because they give you on the birth of the baby's shoulders.
Oh, they give it to you without telling.
Once the baby's shoulders are
Oh, so they
stopped,
don't
they
tell-
could
they
have
said-
maybe.
yeah.
No, they should tell you.
Okay.
Nobody should be doing anything to you without getting your consent. And this is part of the birth plan as well. So you write
Okay,
in there,
okay.
I'd like to have the injection for the afterbirth, or I don't want to. So
Yeah.
if you do have the injection, it reduces your risk of hemorrhage and bleeding.
Okay.
Because what the injection does is it causes the uterus or the womb to contract and then it expels the placenta. Okay, and if you don't, you could be sitting there for hours
Yeah.
before
Mm.
the
That's what they
placenta
said.
comes away,
Okay.
and then you could have a bleed.
Okay.
Okay, so it's good to have the injection.
Okay.
Could make you feel sick, but you could be given something to correct that as well. So giving you the injection, and normally it's in your thigh or bum, whichever way, and then the midwife will try to deliver the. Usually we wait about 3 to 3 5 minutes. Then we'll try and deliver the placenta, and then the placenta comes away.
Yeah.
Okay, and hopefully your uterus stays nice and contracted,
Okay.
and you will have a little bit of a bleed, but it's minimized. Now there are instances where your uterus relaxes a bit.
So now, the one thing that they never told me, no one ever told me, was when you have a child quite soon after you've had your first child, when you go to breastfeed for the first time, this will be good for like Khadisha and people like that are going to have babies quite soon. I literally almost threw Kayla off of me because I started contracting whilst breastfeeding,
But that's
and they
normal.
said that that's
Pains.
completely normal.
It's
That's
normal.
normal.
But that was,
But it's more
no one told me,
painful
it's
second
really
time
painful.
round.
So when you have your second child,
Mm.
it literally is like labour pains. Like it literally, like, it took my breath away. Why is that?
It's
What is
just
it?
generally because of your hormones inside your body. There's no particular reason, and we actually advise it that you do it because that helps your uterus stay contracted.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you don't have a bleed,
Yeah.
especially if you just delivered a big baby.
And
So
they used to tell us that it helped to get your stomach back anyway.
down as
It's
well.
almost like God's way of getting your stomach back in, because those contractions, that feeling like a contraction, I was able to bear it because I'm thinking, oh, this is helping to flatten my stomach. I know, vain, but it's like, okay, I don't mind this because it feels like it's pulling your stomach
Yes,
in, which
yes.
is a good thing. Right?
Okay, so we're running out of time. Gosh,
Yeah.
it's 9:15 already. Let's talk about obviously the issue that has kind of been in the media over the last. Well, it's been going on for a while, but it's obviously maybe some people
highlighted
didn't know about it.
recently.
It's been highlighted recently. Yeah. So let's talk about obviously why there is a higher mortality rate in women of colour.
Okay, so I've read the report myself. It doesn't actually state why, and there's a few speculation around with different health professionals saying that could it be institutionalized racism? Could it be because of the maternity unit that the women had their babies? Could it be society? And people also highlighted the different things like beliefs, culture, substance abuse, drug abuse, domestic violence. Could that be a factor? Could it be that Black and Asian ethnic minority women are not being listened to? They're being taken for granted. So there's quite a few speculations. The report actually doesn't say why, and it doesn't tell us. So there were 3 main causes, which was hemorrhage and thrombosis, which is blood clot, and the third major one was suicide, which is very interesting. But what I would have loved to see in the report would have been specific reasons why Black and Asian and ethnic minority women are dying, but there wasn't any reason in the report.
Okay.
And obviously because of the numbers, so what they did, they looked at just over 200,000 births, and the women that died were 225, and 34 of those were Black women, 21 were Asian women. So if you think about the population of Black women, and that's quite a lot, that is quite high. So I think they're going to look into doing more studies, more research into it. But a lot of conclusion has been probably the institutionalized racism. Could be that there's no support, and women are not being listened to, which is very important that we ask questions during labour, during the antenatal period. Antenatal period, get a schedule of your appointments from the midwife, find out what each schedule is about, get her to explain to you. In the labour, ask questions. Why are you doing this? Is there any risk? Is there any benefits? Do I have to do this now? Is there any alternatives?
Well, I actually remember, I think it was with my last child when I had Dominic, back in the day, because when I started it was like you had to stay for 9 days, and then it was reduced over time. But I remember on the last one, I think you had an allowance back then of 5 days. I know it's changed now, it's like kick you out soon. But back then it was 5 days. And I remember an Asian woman, an Indian woman in the same ward as me, and we'd given birth and they wanted us both out. The ward was empty, but they wanted us gone. And I remember having done my own research, I knew my rights. So I said to them, well, I'm actually entitled to stay here for 5 days. I said, I'm going to take my 5 days because I want to rest before I go home. And this woman was actually crying because she had several children at home, and she pleaded with the nurses to say, if I go home, I know I'm going to be put to work, I'm not going to get a chance to rest or recover. And she asked for just a few more days and they wouldn't listen to her. So this is from way back when they weren't being listened to, and they totally ignored her cries, her tears. And they could have done. There was no one waiting for the bed, and they put her out, and she knew what she was going to.
But this is where I suppose the birthing partner or the husband has to really advocate on behalf.
But then if you don't have that supporting type of husband, you know,
but if
certain cultures.
But I guess a birthing partner, because obviously not everyone's birthing partner is their spouse, or
it could be your mum,
or they might have an absent spouse, or whatever the circumstances are. That's obviously why, because in that moment you are not really capable of communicating your wishes in that moment. So it's, I guess, sharing that information so that person, whoever that person is in that room with you, they can advocate on your behalf. I think that's really important.
So we're running out of time. What are the questions that we should be asking?
So like I said just now, you're asking for while you're pregnant, your appointments, you're asking for your appointment schedules, what happens during the appointment schedules, and why the midwife is doing what she's doing. When you're in labour, asking them to inform you of any intervention before it's carried out. Why are they doing it? What are the benefits? What are the risks to the baby? Do you have to have this done now? Can I have an alternative? And also just generally being involved. Asking these questions will open the avenue to conversation and to discussion, to communication. So you're better informed to make an informed
And I think
choice.
trusting your gut. I think, you know, God's given us such a gut instinct as well when something's wrong. And I think it's really fighting when you have that gut instinct that something's wrong, even though you may not be a medical professional, even though you are that child's mother. And I think that you know your body and you know that baby, and if there's a gut instinct that says something's wrong, I think fight for that.
And also don't there's no point being shy or you don't want to disturb anybody. It's your body, it's your health. Speak up. If you're feeling dizzy after you've had your baby, it could be that you're bleeding. Speak up. Let the midwife know. If you can't, send your husband to go and get somebody. Pull the bell or something. Speak up and let somebody know what's happening and how you're feeling. Because at the end of the day, that's why we're there, to help you out. That's why we're there to answer your questions. That's why we're there to look after you. So it's very important to speak up. Absolutely important to speak up.
And I know we're almost out of time, but I just want to say the diet and the things we consume can actually affect you conceiving. And one of the examples I remember was somebody that was in the church that really wanted to get pregnant, and God gave me a word of knowledge, and I spoke to them and I asked them if they eat hot peppers. And the moment she stopped eating the peppers, she actually conceived and started having a family. So just watch your diet, because I know sometimes within culture we eat a lot of spicy and a lot of pepper and things like that. Not thinking, or high cholesterol. Be mindful of your diet and what you're consuming, because all of those things contribute to us not being able to conceive. And remember this, the Bible said the fruit of the womb is blessed. And we are not under the curse, especially as a Christian woman. Your womb should be fruitful. That's a blessing that God has given us. So stand on the promises, eat right, don't just claim the promises and you're not taking care of yourself. Like Naomi said, make sure you're eating the right things, you're taking the right supplements, and you're doing everything that you know to do so that the word can work for you.
Yes, and it's staying with the word all the way through. Don't stop just because you're pregnant. That's where to even fight.
Absolutely.
The more. That's when to fight and stay in agreement with your husband. Lean on scriptures, quote scriptures, pray, worship. Just put the word and put God before everything. Let God be the foundation.
Absolutely.
And
all
then
the time.
let's just speak to the men, because we've got 5 minutes. What can we say to the men? Because obviously a lot of the time fertility is very much put on women.
The women's true.
And
Yeah.
not enough is said about what men can do
Yeah.
to also. Most men don't even get tested to see whether they're fertile.
Absolutely.
So how can men get
What can
better?
The quality of your sperm as
Okay.
well. So it's checking all that
Mm.
and going for, obviously in agreement with your wife, going for different tests to see
Yeah.
if everything is okay.
Okay.
And also being involved, like I said about the birth plan, so you can be an advocate for your wife when the time comes.
And then just quickly, freezing eggs, because we've got lots and lots of women that would love to have babies, but they might be getting a bit older. And, you know, I know that I have friends that have spoken about, you know, do I, don't I? What's your view on freezing eggs?
Personal preference. I know people who have done it and they're happy with their children or child that they've done it with. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. At the end of the day, as long as you're not in sin and you're not doing anything against God's will, then I don't see anything wrong with it. Again, it's personal choice.
Yeah. And so they basically take your eggs, they basically freeze it to keep them, so that when you do meet that person, they can put those eggs inside of you
Reimplant them,
and reimplant them, and it just guarantees that those eggs are good.
Does it work if you've gone past your period time?
It does. It
So
can
that's the
work.
whole-
So
yeah.
generally, they say when you're 30, you've used about 90% of the eggs they've been released basically
Okay.
by the time you're 30.
Oh, wow.
So the older you are, the
Less.
yes. And I actually had a friend who, if you're listening, I hope you're happy for me to share this. So she froze her eggs. She was married, had an IVF with the first baby, went through all right, had several IVFs, didn't go through, so she had, I think, 2 left. And this was the first baby, is about, I think, 12 years older than the one she's got now. And she then just decided, why don't we just try this last one? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And it worked after 12 years of, you know, putting
So
them
she was
away.
past the age of.
She was past the age.
Okay, so it works. So
and there's nothing
yeah.
God cannot do.
Absolutely.
God
So
is amazing.
Don't
It's,
sweat, don't worry. If you haven't met Mr. Right yet, there is that option that you can still have a child, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is just research. This is what man is saying. God says differently.
Absolutely.
And I think it's just important as well, while we're on this topic, that natural birth isn't the only way to become a mother.
No.
Absolutely.
You know, I follow this amazing lady on Instagram. I think her name's Ebby Hepworth, and she adopted 2 children. And the doctors basically said to her, there's less than 5% chance of her ever having carrying her own children. And she went through a course of IVF. So she'd already adopted a boy and a girl. And she's just recently had a set of twin boys, and this was through IVF, but she was told she had less than 5% chance of those eggs actually being fertilized. So, you know, I think it's just really important that, and she's obviously got her story is different. She's got adopted children, and she's got children that she had through the course of IVF. So I think it's really important to not just put our options in a box.
Yeah,
there are so
absolutely.
many different options, and I think it doesn't make you any less than a mother if you
Absolutely.
adopt, if you foster,
Yeah.
you know, if you
Or if
have
you do
IVF, or if it's just, you know, for some people it happens naturally and it's very easy. I think it's just one of those things I think is very sensitive, and I think everyone's story is very individual. And I think it's just important, if you are somebody that knows somebody, I think it's being sensitive, because I think a lot of people can be very
insensitive in this area.
and it is a very delicate
And if you
issue.
think about it, it is God that gives knowledge for
Yeah.
the doctors to
Yeah.
come up with all these things.
Exactly.
As long as, like I said, you're not in sin, you're following God's word, and you're not doing anything that you're going to end up regretting against God's word, then absolutely, if that works for you, then fine.
And we're out of time, but just quickly, what are some of the things that are not normal in pregnancy that we should look for?
Okay, so headaches, continuous headaches, visual disturbances, pain up there could mean that maybe you have high blood pressure. Get checked. If you have an appointment, don't wait for the appointment. Ring the designated number and be checked. Itching, hands, feet, torso area, not normal. Could mean that maybe your liver's not functioning properly. Again, get checked. bleeding, you shouldn't be bleeding at all in pregnancy, even if it's little dots of blood. Get it checked because it could be an indication of something happening inside. Also, discharge should be clear, shouldn't be bloody, offensive, or green. Again, if any of those, then get your midwife to check you over or go into hospital and be checked out.
That's wonderful. Thank
Thank
you.
you
Thank
so
you
much.
much.
That was
Thank
so
you.
informative.
Almost
I
makes
hope you
want to
learned
have another one.
We hope
No.
you guys have. We hope you guys have learned something. We hope you guys have learned something on this episode and all the episodes actually.
Yeah.
This has been an awesome season. We've
Yeah.
kept it very, very
Yes.
well with you this
Yes.
season.
Thank you for sticking with us.
Yes.
We are really excited.
Yeah.
We're only going from strength to strength, and like we say, Girl Talk will resume again on September the 2nd.
Yeah, and do send us in any requests of
Yes.
any topics and subjects you'd like us to cover or consider for the next season. We'd love to hear from you.
Or if you have a story that you think that you want to tell and
Yeah.
that you think needs
Write
to be
email
told,
us.
then email us at
Yes.
b2bchurch@aol.co.uk. We'd love to hear your story.
So on that note, we will see you back on September 2nd.
While Girl Talk takes a good break.
We need it, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you,
We'll see you
guys.
soon.
Good
See you
night.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.